And I would now like to invite Ms. Marta Cartabia, Minister of Justice of Italy, in her capacity as representative of the Italian chairmanship of the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe, to address our audience. Minister, you have the floor.
Madame Burić, Secretary.
Madame Burić, Secretary General of the Council of Europe, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me, first of all, to say how delighted I am to be here today at the Council of Europe, a common European home, which represents an expression of Europe's courage to move towards unity whilst respecting different national communities. The President of the Italian Republic, Sergio Mattarella, addressed the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe here in Strasbourg just a few days ago, stating that the Council of Europe is the culmination of efforts towards multilateralism which characterized the years following on from the Second World War, an effort based on one crucial consideration, namely that collaboration can reduce opposition, to put an end to the conflict in Ukraine and to settle our differences peacefully. I am delighted to be here to participate in the international conference to mark the opening for signature of the second additional protocol to the Budapest Convention, the Council of Europe Cybercrime Convention. And I would like to thank Secretary General Burić for her invitation. In my capacity as the Chair in Office of the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe, let me say that Italy sets great store by this protocol. Its objectives are significant. It seeks to strengthen cooperation in the fight against cybercrime and to consolidate the gathering of evidence of offences committed in an electronic form for the purpose of investigations or criminal prosecution. The Italian Ministry of Justice took an active part in negotiations. Very soon, I will be adding my signature in the name of Italy to the second additional protocol. And this flows not only as a natural consequence of Italy's commitment during those negotiations, but also is a fresh opportunity for my country to express its support for the adoption of new regulatory instruments which facilitate direct cooperation between judicial authorities of the parties to the Convention. And I would like to note that there are legislative efforts underway in the European Union, specifically on e-evidence, and I very much hope that this second additional protocol will lend fresh impetus to decisive negotiations between the European Council and the European Parliament. Let's try briefly to try and understand the backdrop to the negotiations on the second additional protocol. The growing use of technology has made our societies more vulnerable to the risks of cybercrime. The 2001 Budapest Convention offered a holistic response to this risk. As a binding international legal instrument, it has proved to be absolutely crucial in fighting against cybercrime, computer fraud, as well as dissemination of child pornography on the internet, as well as attacks on the security of our networks. The Budapest Convention was then backed up by a first additional protocol on racist and xenophobic acts committed using computer systems, with a corresponding extension of the scope of application of the Convention, including provisions on judicial cooperation between the signatories. Today, 20 years on, we can state quite clearly that the Budapest Convention has also been extremely useful for exchanges of experiences between judicial authorities and best practice between experts and practitioners from around the world. 66 countries are now parties to the Budapest Convention.
Let's also try to realize why a second additional protocol to the Budapest Convention was needed. The use of ICT by organized crime in all sectors, sexual exploitation, drug trafficking, smuggling, terrorism, represents a further challenge for our judicial authorities and for our institutions. The list of these challenges is not short. Criminal systems use the internet to recruit victims, to exploit, and to use social networks as marketing platforms for prostitution and labor exploitation. Pornography, misuse of live webcams, sexual abuse on children, and many other illegal services are offered online. The visible web, and above all the dark web, are used by traffickers to illegally offer jobs, contracts, visas, travel documents. These illegal services often contribute to stimulating the phenomenon of trafficking in human beings. Private groups on certain cross-platform messaging services with enhanced encryption are even more hidden and are particularly exploited by terrorist groups. Our governments must respond promptly and effectively to all those crimes in line with the technological evolution. On 17 November 2021, the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe adopted the second additional protocol at the conclusion of a complex negotiation. We are all confident that this new protocol will be capable of countering all the new methods of online crime. If it is true that ICT facilitate criminal groups, it is also true that unavoidable traces remain on the web. Those traces can become a precious electronic evidence, allowing judicial competent authorities a prompt and effective response. The second additional protocol, therefore, respond to the need for greater and more efficient cooperation between states and between the states and private sector, clarifying the cases in which the service providers will be able to provide the data in their possession directly to the competent authorities of other countries. Furthermore, it will further strengthen cooperation through additional tools allowing a timely mutual assistance. I refer here in particular to the emergency procedures provided for in Article 9 and 10. These articles oblige all the parties to provide specific channels for rapid cooperation in emergency situations involving a significant and imminent risk to the life or safety of a person. Italy is proud to have actively contributed to the drafting of those two articles. I would also like to highlight the relevance of the second additional protocol as a hope for the victims of cybercrime stricto sensu. We are confident that the emergency procedures provided for in Article 9 and 10 in particular will be able to facilitate the prevention of the very serious crimes and therefore offer an early protection to the victims of cybercrime. Mesdames et Messieurs,
ladies and gentlemen, in concluding, I would like to remark that the protocol that we are about to sign recognizes that cross-border cooperation in the field of criminal justice also requires effective conditions and robust guarantees for the protection of fundamental rights. And I am very pleased to see that the protocol provides for just such conditions and guarantees in compliance with international human rights instruments, particularly Articles 13 and 14. And I'm referring here to the European Convention on Human Rights, as well as to the preamble to the Protocol of the Convention for the Protection of Individuals with regard to the automatic processing of personal data. The potential of the measures that are foreseen in the second protocol is absolutely plain to see, as it will make the acquisition of electronic evidence more effective and rapid. And our hope is that as many states as possible will both sign and ratify the protocol without delay. There are many of us here today. That way, it will enter into force as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Grazie, Excellenza.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I would now like to invite Marija Pejčinović Burić, the Secretary General of the Council of Europe, to make her statement.
Madame la Ministre.
Madam Minister of Justice of Italy, ministers, experts, ladies and gentlemen, in opening the second additional protocol to the Budapest Convention on Cybercrime for signature, we are making a huge contribution to global efforts to tackle online crime. It was by no means easy to arrive at this outcome. The committee held about 100 sessions over a period of 4 years. It had to overcome a whole series of obstacles, including a global pandemic. But its members have been unsparing in their efforts to produce a protocol which will be commensurate with the needs and the concerns of stakeholders. And they have shown their skill as well as their perseverance, for which I thank them. The tool that they have devised will assist authorities in obtaining evidence from computer systems in foreign jurisdictions. And what is particularly innovative is that there will be direct cooperation with service providers on the territory of other parties to the protocol, as well as cooperation between criminal justice authorities and the private sector, thereby making it possible to more rapidly produce evidence in emergencies, particularly when there is a threat to human life. And all of that will protect people against crime and will make it possible to hold perpetrators of criminal acts accountable. But the protocol also provides for a number of safeguards for human rights and the rule of law, particularly when it comes to data protection. Article 14 explicitly protects personal data. And indeed, this is the most detailed provision of the protocol. Reaching an agreement on a raft of measures on data protection, which was acceptable to all parties to the Convention from throughout the world, is a major achievement. In due course, our Programme Office on Cybercrime will assist signatories to the protocol in capitalising on its potential in such a way as to protect states parties as well as the people they represent in the field. And that is most timely. Cybercrime is on the rise and is evolving more and more quickly. It causes billions of euros in damage each year. It attacks critical infrastructure such as hospitals on which we all depend. And cybercrime is also used to extort different organizations by demanding ransoms. It can harm elections and other democratic institutions and violate rights and the private lives of individuals everywhere.
The COVID-19 pandemic through technology and the internet, with scams on the online sale of counterfeit medical supplies and prime examples. And since the beginning of Russia's aggression against Ukraine in February, attacks against Ukrainian information technology resources have been non-stop. This follows a series of episodes over recent years in which Ukrainian infrastructure and resources have come under cyber attack. These include hacking into power stations, the 2017 NotPetya ransomware that went on to spread around the world, and an episode this January in which websites were defaced and the data belonging to several government institutions was wiped. While we must distinguish between cybercrime as a matter of criminal justice and cyber attacks as a matter of international security, the means to investigate and attribute responsibility for such attacks are often similar. And criminal justice cooperation on cybercrime helps build confidence more broadly. In short, this kind of crime amounts to a modern-day means to undermine the values that the Council of Europe exists to uphold: human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. So the urgency is clear, and the second protocol is the right response. It is also important to be clear about the geographical scale of its potential. When the Budapest Convention was negotiated 20 years ago, it was not only Council of Europe member states that took part in those discussions. It was also Canada, Japan, South Africa, and the United States. So it was always intended to be a multilateral treaty made in Europe, but open to the world. And its impact has indeed been truly global. Today, the Budapest Convention has 66 states parties and 9 observer states. It has inspired countries' laws in countries around the world, and it is the gold standard in its field. 600 experts from across those state parties and observer states have contributed to the negotiations for the second protocol. So too have a number of international organizations. And there have been 6 consultation rounds with industry, civil society, and data protection organizations. The result of the inclusive process is a protocol that meets the requirements of legal systems from every continent and brings the Budapest Convention up to date with current technological challenges, so that it remains the most relevant and effective international framework for combating cybercrime in the years ahead. The second protocol is the gateway to a safer, more secure future. I congratulate you all for the role that you have played in opening it. And I hope that as many state parties as possible will accede to the protocol in the interest of citizens here in Europe and around the world. Una palabra en español.
Perhaps just to switch briefly into Spanish, thank you to all of you for being here with us. Thank you.
Gracias, Secretaria General. Tras casi 4 años.
Thank you very much indeed, Secretary General. Following on from close to 4 years of negotiations, we are now opening for signature the second additional protocol to the Budapest Convention on Cybercrime.
Now, the head of protocol and Mr. Jörg Polakiewicz, Director of Legal Advice and Public International Law, to proceed with the opening for signature of the second additional protocol of the Budapest Convention. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to the ceremony of opening for signature of the second additional protocol to the Convention on Cybercrime on enhanced cooperation and disclosure of electronic evidence. Mesdames et messieurs, nous allons maintenant procéder à la cérémonie d'ouverture, à la signature du deuxième protocole additionnel à la Convention sur la cybercriminalité relatif au renforcement de la coopération et de la divulgation de preuves électroniques. I will invite the representatives of the states who have expressed the intention to sign in alphabetical order. We will start with Italy for the presidency of the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe. Je vais à présent inviter les représentants des États qui ont exprimé leur intention de signer par ordre alphabétique. Nous commençons par l'Italie pour la présidence du Comité des ministres du Conseil de l'Europe. For Italy, pour l'Italie, Madame Marta Cartabia, ministre de la Justice de l'Italie.